Do you ever feel like with your current camera setup, you just can't get close enough on the action? Well, good news, Sony shooters, because now they've released a brand new macro lens. Let's go. Should have walked off the other side. This way will take ages. Anyway, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Launch your own website or shop easy peasy with a 14-day free trial and 10% off your first order using the code KAI. Yeah. Currently for Sony macro lenses, you've got the choice of a 15mm macro with 1x magnification, the 70-200 f4.2, which has half-size magnification, and the quite old but still decent 90mm macro with 1x magnification. So what's the deal with releasing a new one? Well, this one differs from the old one in that it adds 10mm more to the focal length, but also magnification. The old one was 1:1, which is just enough for macro lens. But this new Sony 100mm macro lens offers up 1.4x magnification, which is 1.4x enough. But what exactly is magnification all about? So 1:1 magnification means that the lens will reproduce whatever you're taking photos of to its life-size proportions. So if you take something like a 5p coin, which is 18mm, on the full-frame sensor it will look like that. Likewise, 1:1 magnification on a smaller sensor like a micro four thirds sensor, it will look like that. Magnification is not just about getting closer. After all, with the same lens, a crop sensor will crop it in closer. The benefit of a higher magnification lens is that it captures way more detail, and that's what you want for macro photography. And as I said, this new lens offers more magnification, more focal length, which can also be important because of the working distance. That is, the distance from the front of the lens to the subject. And that's great if you don't want to scare off your subject, if you're scared of your subject, or you've got hay fever. Well, antihistamines can fix that last one. What's harder to fix is if your lens is so close to the subject, you're blocking out the light. Well, another huge benefit of this versus the old one is that you can use teleconverters with it to increase your reach. The 1.4x and the 2x teleconverters. The 1.4x teleconverter will essentially make this 2x magnification, and the 2x teleconverter will make it a 2.8x magnification lens. While we're doing some simple multiplications, it's worth mentioning that the price on the new one is 1.7x more too. In a time when everything is bloody expensive, it is worth noting that this is quite a bit more money than the current 19mm macro lens. But if you're more than happy to splash the cash, it's worth noting that the image quality is better. It's sharper towards the edges compared to the old one, and even at more moderate apertures too. If you want a macro lens, it's all about reproducing those details across the frame beautifully crisp. And this has bags of crispness. It's a big giant XL bag of Walker's / Lay's bag of crispness. This lens is a super sharp performer and well corrected from chromatic aberration crudness. Carrying on with the food metaphors, you'd want some creamy cheesy bokeh balls to go along with that, wouldn't you? And they say that the two X8 elements will prevent onion ring bokeh. Cheese and onion. Wide open, they're mostly smooth bokeh balls, although not a completely perfect circular ball if you look really closely. F4, still nice and smooth, less circular. F5.6 is where it becomes more noticeably less circular, and note how some of the bokeh balls take on a more pronounced edge, but not a total distraction. Stopping it down more from here obviously makes the balls a lot less circular. Just noting this is what the bokeh looks like at 1x magnification. Some of the imperfections might be a little less pronounced at low magnification, but this is a macro lens. You're going to be using it at 1x magnification and more. But really a rather pleasing lens. It does have a bit of flaring. I was a bit surprised because they said it's nano coating, whatever it is. The whole lens flare thing is kind of down to taste these days, so here you go. This is what it looks like. There's a little bit of veering flare, and one thing you might find cool is the sun stars, as that has an odd number of blades. You get double amount of sun star points with an odd number of blades versus an even amount. So with this lens you do get some very prominent fuzzy edged, not crisp edged sun stars. Yes, it's more expensive, but this is a G Master lens, so it's better spec than before. It's got weather sealing, like proper weather sealing. You've got the rubber gasket on the rear, then you've got a proper aperture ring and an iris lock. You've got the pumpy ring from changing autofocus to manual focus, then you've got the DMF for manual focus override. The autofocusing does feel quite a bit better on the new one compared to the old one, which I think uses DDSSM. Catchy. Now, I use macro lenses, but I only tend to buy the older ones or cheapo manual focus ones because I find that autofocusing isn't really needed when the subjects don't move much. Add to the fact that macro lenses can be quite slow when it comes to focusing.
Okay, I take boring macro of stuff that doesn't move. Well, it moves a little bit, but I'm pretty impressed at how it performs with the autofocusing.
Okay, now that's wide open, focusing on that tree over there. Now let's move it to this stump. That's pretty quick.
It makes it a lens that's more than capable to be used for general purpose stuff too. It's not just for macro photography. And optical stabilization is as good as you'll get for Sony. Yep, the autofocusing works well, but not for every close-up subject. For something like this, which is just a load of green, not much contrast, it did struggle a little bit. But I just used the DMF for AF first and then MF the final bits. But oh yes, the price tag. It's got to be said though, it definitely is a lot more appealing than the old 90mm macro. Fast focus, great physical features, more magnification, top image quality. No need to figure out if it's 1.7 times as good as before. This video was sponsored by Squarespace.
If you want to set up your own website, online store, just your own domain, it's super easy to get started with Squarespace with a slick, easy to use interface filled with a plethora of templates to choose from and with 24/7 customer service to help you out if you need it.
You can get a 14-day free trial by clicking the link in the description box below, and to get 10% off your first order, use the code KAI.